What's the greatest challenge of education in the United States and in the world nowadays?
Well, I think it's a multidimensional problem that has also opportunities for innovation. What I see as I travel a lot globally, not only in the US, is really a desire to reinvent, to innovate, and bring whole new interaction learning experiences and programs into schools as well as college and higher education. And a couple of issues that always come up are really being entrenched in the thought process that is grounded in the industrial age generation that looked at mass production, very focused on teaching, delivering content to large groups of learners, versus putting the learner in the center and really focusing on the learning experience, knowledge transfer, knowledge acquisition, and then seeing the learners actually exercise the knowledge that they acquire. And I always like to talk about the information age that has tried to transform this thought process by bringing technology into the classroom, and so using new economy technology on old economy teaching and learning principles and methods. Having said that, it's important also to understand that one should not throw the baby out with the water. So solid learning theories and pedagogical methods are very powerful, if you want, guiding principles to really take advantage of new technologies, but really rethink the interaction experience. So really understanding that the teacher is no longer the sage on stage. The teacher is no longer the only source of knowledge, and the learners know that. They are born digitally. They are hyper-connected. They know how to use technology in transformative ways. And very often learning happens outside the classroom. And we don't know, exactly what that learning is, because it's very dynamic and multidirectional. So the opportunity is to really take solid theory-grounded principles and merge them with these whole new technological opportunities to really create these new learning experiences. Another big challenge is that the teachers are so behind and on the technology side, and behind in terms of using it, being fluent in this new language, and really understanding how to leverage this technology both in class and outside class. So there is always this kind of balance between structured formal activities and unstructured informal activities. And very often they kind of are disjunct. You go to class and content is delivered to you. You may pay attention or not. I, as a teacher, I don't know where your mind is. Today, with the iPhone, you can actually do multitasking as well as continuous partial attention and be physically present there, but your mind is somewhere else with your friends, looking for other information related to what I present. But it's not shared, it's not transparent, it's not visible. And so really understanding how to balance teaching and learning, formal and informal, structured and unstructured. Nowadays, the digitally born millennials are so ready for a whole new experience that is not there. So very often going to school is very boring. And I say this as a challenge to us as educators to really rethink what goes on in class. Of course, the other big challenge is that teachers, instructors, professors, they are overloaded. They have, within the 8, 10, 18 hours they work per day, they have to cover so many tasks, and this comes on top of everything else. So resources, time, training, coaching, mentoring the teachers is really kind of a side activity if there is time left, but there is usually no time left. Or if it is happening disjunct from the activity that occurs daily in school. So you go for a training course. In the meantime, the workload piles up on your desk. What you learn in the training session is not directly linked to what you have to do in class, in school, with your tasks. So this bridging of knowing, doing, knowing, kind of learning new concepts, new methods, new technologies, and implementing them is a huge chasm that needs to be bridged, but that needs the resources, the time, the funding, and good role models to actually make it happen. So institutional support is necessary, training, and really and doing it at all levels, institutional, the big vision, what is the new business of the school, what's the business model, how it is going to be implemented and supported in a sustained fashion, as well as the grassroots efforts, the desire and the support for the people to actually do it. And it takes time, it's risky, and you have to nurture it in very many ways. So the benefits are huge, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like we acquire a technology, we deploy it, you turn the power button on, and it's running. So these are big challenges in terms of meeting the learner's expectations and sparking that passion and that desire to explore, to discover, to learn, and to apply what was learned in a meaningful way. And the second is kind of the gap. So the learners are technology literate. But it's us, the educators, who need to take this energy and this opportunity and channel it towards, sparking these interests in science, in technology, in humanities, in meeting all these grand challenges like energy, the environment, sustainability, healthcare for everyone, zero casualty traffic. All these are huge challenges that learners could embrace and come up with very creative solutions. But how do we really spark that interest, and how do we create spaces, interaction experiences that leverage the constantly evolving technology and educate the instructors to do it?
How can you bring technology into the classroom, and how can you also train the teachers? How can you join what they learn and what are the options?
Well, the options are many, and I always say that it should not be technology that sits in the driver's seat. So today it's the iPhone, tomorrow it's the virtual world, and the day after tomorrow, we don't know. But what is really important is to really go back and think about the objectives of learning. And it's not about teaching. It's teaching in the sense of just delivering the content in the textbook, because kids can go and read the textbook, but what is that additional interpretation of the content so that you spark that passion and interest in the learner to really acquire that knowledge, not for the exam, but really educate the learner to think creatively, solve problems, identify new problems, ask questions that are related to the topic, that pushes them into the desire to pursue a career in science, technology, engineering, math, humanities, to really understand that it's the learning activity, the learner, the interaction that, and the actors. So interaction is all about the actors that you bring to the table and their role in the dialogue that you create. If you want, it's very much like drama. You write a script for the movie or the theater, you stage the interaction, and then, camera's on. And you have a whole new dynamics that occurs in the lab, in the classroom, and outside the classroom. Second to all this is the fact that the learners and learning happens everywhere. So we have to really understand that it's not just going to school or to the library or to the lab or to your office that the activity can happen because of all the infrastructure. Now we talk about mobile knowledge learners, mobile knowledge workers, and they need to constantly be connected to their peers, to their mentors, to the content that they create, and all this needs to allow a continuous dialogue with feedback. So this immediate, if you want, hyperspeed in a hyper-connected world that puts a whole new set of challenges in front of the instructor. So all of a sudden, your time as an instructor needs to be managed very differently. Instead of having office hours, Tuesday and Thursday from 2 to 4 o'clock. If you have a question, come to my office. And class time Monday and Wednesday between 10 and 12. You almost have to completely redistribute that time in much smaller chunks, almost 24 times 7. Especially if you teach classes that are distributed online, like e-learning, and where are the learners? Are they in different time zones? How do you create the resources to allow people to also have a life, as well as ensure that when the learner has a question, it is addressed. First of all, there is an infrastructure that provides the learner to send out the question the moment it comes up, in the context it comes up, to make the thought process of the learner transparent and visible to the instructor and to the mentors. And then on the instructor, teacher, mentor side, respond in real time. We are changing our expectations. The moment you push that send button, you, the sender, the learner who has a question, has an expectation that in the next 5 seconds, there will be an answer, right? You go on Google, you go on Wikipedia, you enter some keywords, you have 10,000 hits. So now I have a question, I'm a learner. How do I make the context the question came up and my thought process, where it's breaking, visible to the instructor, so the instructor can help me move forward? Very hard. And this has to be part of the script, of the interaction experience script. And the technology that is there as a mediator. So it's not about the technology, it's about the learning. And the learning interaction experience and the actors that participate in this communicative event.
It's like the world changed so much. If you look for the past 20 years, what the technology did to our lifestyle, everybody's lifestyle, why it didn't happen inside the classroom, why it's so hard to change the methods of education?
Well, there is a lot of infrastructure, legacy systems and methods. As I mentioned, they are rooted in the industrial age that was innovative at its time, 200, 300 years ago, focused on the production line, on efficiency. So how much is produced per unit of time, or per unit, it could be space, square footage. Let's take physical space, facilities, classrooms. they are designed to support the industrial age and the institution. So it's systemic changes that need to happen in a strategic as well as tactical way. So a lot of visioning, planning that needs to be aligned with the business model that the education institution wants to implement. So when you have large auditoriums that are designed to teach, for teaching 300 students at a time, and you want to switch to PBL type total engagement learning experience, and you are stuck with physical spaces, it's very hard to find the resources, both people-wise, kind of to rethink, as well as the funding necessary to completely redesign, retrofit a whole campus. So many campuses now start with pilot labs and pilot rooms, which is great because it's like a first learning process step. However, there is a challenge to scale up from that pilot to a department, to a whole education program, and then to a whole school, and then to a whole school system. So indeed, we need this new workforce that will be ready to fill out all those jobs related to science, technology, math, humanities. How do we get these people ready when we are stuck in this physical world that is constraining innovation? So people are smart, and that's one wonderful thing about human nature, and we know how to kind of work around what is given to us. And we take the students outside and we form groups because the physical space doesn't allow it, right? If we look here, it's just rows, it's a theater model. There are actors on stage, they know everything, and we theoretically are just buckets, and stuff is just thrown into our heads. Well, nowadays, young people are very much like black holes, we throw stuff in and we don't know where it goes. Is it sticking or not? So engagement, participation, co-creation, co-action is very important. But how do you do it in these spaces? Second, as I said, learners are mobile. It doesn't only happen in the class. So you have to have whole new ways, not only to send email or DVDs on mail, but create spaces where dialogue is fostered. And that is, again, very hard. But from an institutional point of view, it's all very well managed because it's facilities, there is a schedule, there are faculty who come to the class, they are scheduled to show up in classroom 20B in building A from 10 to 12 on Monday. And they show up and the students come in, the faculty is teaching, they go off, the next come in. So it's so efficient that institutions very often say, why fix it when it works, right? Think about the Ford T1 production line, right? They optimized it. It worked excellent if you focus on efficiency. But in the knowledge age, we want also to bring in effectiveness, and that is the quality of learning. So if the cars move along on the production line and people are specialized to do a particular task, like install the engine, and that's what you do for 8 hours, that's exactly how the resources and facilities on a campus are optimized. There are buildings, there are classrooms, faculty, they have expertise, and students flow in and out. The students are the cars on the production line, the faculty are the experts. I install the engine, you install the left door, he installs the right door, and off goes the new, Volkswagen car. All works like clockwork. Question: does our product, the learner, acquire the knowledge? We don't know. All we have is an exam. So the students optimize to do very well for the exam. How do we know that after the exam they don't purge their mind to fill it with the content for the next exam? So how do we test knowledge transfer? And knowledge transfer comes when we see that knowledge in one class is transferred and used in another class, in another subject, and the learner starts to connect. Oh, I learned in my math class some principles that I can now use in the biology class. Wow! Do they? Very seldomly. Do we create environments to even allow for these connections to happen? Even more seldomly. And so it's silo-based education and content delivery and a whole system that is designed to operate like clockwork based on very old economies. So yes, we have great technologies, and the technology is moving very fast. We use it, but if you step back for a second and think, we typically learn how to use all these cool new technologies in social interactions, outside the classroom. Of course, there are lots of wonderful instructors who try and innovate and bring those in. But these are points of singularity. So going back to your original question in terms of the challenge is really thinking much broader, system integration wise, and that can be done top down or bottoms up. The best is to attack it from both sides and each supporting the other. So, the vision, the strategic people, the executives, really supporting the grassroots efforts, but also creating a framework that defines the education system. So the learner really understands why they are there, what type of interaction protocols are facilitated in this framework, and what they are going to walk away with. What's that skill set? For the moment, they know I will do well in math, I will do well in physics, I will do well in history, in literature, I'll pass my exams. Does that serve the needs of the future workforce? Maybe for the smart kids who figure it out anyway, but for the large masses, yeah, it's hard.
Nice. Good, very well.